this is just a defense of now. One of them came along talking about I mentioned Alkyone.
As in ancient times, a contest will determine our emissary to the outside world. As is the custom, our emissary will don the colors of the foreign nation as a sign of respect and peace.
I was sent to kill the Amazon.
Merry Christmas.
If I become what I'm thinking of becoming, my enemies, I'd be putting you at risk.
Have you seen what's happening out there?
But let's leave that to me.
This wasn't about revenge.
Yeah, that'll work.
You don't need to worry about me. I'm Wonder Woman.
So, just to recap, I was, before talking about Wonder Woman's Rogues Gallery, I was agreeing that she doesn't have, you know, as extensively good a Rogues Gallery as, say, Batman, but she does have villains that, if in the right hands, if put in the right hands, should be every bit as successful as a character such as, like, the Joker or Bane. To be honest, I think a lot of the ones that I am going to mention, a lot of the villains that I'm going to mention of hers are even better than Bane. Now, a universal theme, and this is true, and please, if anyone can contradict this point, please tell me, is that one of the issues with superheroes is that the more powerful the superhero, that is, the more powerful the superhero, the less extensive their good villains are. Why is that? Because it is very, very difficult to think of somebody who can match Superman. It's very, very difficult to think of someone who can match Wonder Woman, who could do it. She's strong, she's a warrior, she flies, she's super fast, she has magical weapons. It's very, very difficult to work out who can harm this go-getter girl. You know, it's again, it's that theme, the Green Lantern as well. You know, he's got Sinestro, he's got a few others, but you get this super powerful character, or the Flash. You know, really, really powerful character, and you can't figure out who can fight them. You know, that people will respond to. It's not like Batman. Batman can fight a human. It's very, very easy. You put a human, you give that human a theme that is against the very kind of philosophy of Batman, or a human that mirrors Batman's journey, i.e. was born out of tragedy and radically transformed into this creature of the night. And then you've got success. It's a human. Very easy. Wonder Woman, Superman, not so easy, and that's why they don't have as extensive a rogues gallery who are appealing as Batman or, say, Daredevil. However, as I've stated in the last video, and I'm trying to defend now, she does have a really some really great ones. So I'm going to start off just telling you a few, uh, 10 that really interest me. Now, one of them came along very recently, and that is Alkyone. She is a creation of Gail Simone. She featured as the main villain in a story called The Circle. Now, I think she's absolutely exceptional a villain. Really psychological. Could even be an arch villain of Wonder Woman's. Now, just to give you a brief description, I mean, this chick really scares me. She reminds me of what the evil chick in Misery would have been if she had superpowers. She's a psychological match for Wonder Woman. She's very tactical and cunning, and she's very strong, and she has magical weapons. Most of all being her magic bow and arrow, with arrow tips made from the tears of Medusa. She's also a skilled warrior and general, but most of all, she's one sick puppy obsessed with Hippolyta, queen of the Amazons and mother of Wonder Woman. And dare I mention that that Alkyone also has a little predilection and taste for infanticide, and believes in her cause so much that Wonder Woman is somehow going to bring about the destruction of Paradise Island, that she is willing to do all kinds of dastardly things to lure Wonder Woman in and finally destroy her. She is an excellent villain. I probably haven't even done her justice, but really great villain. The next villain on my list of great Wonder Woman villains that could be explored. Now, this is one you might think at first sight, I don't know about this one. But also, I'm not just talking about how they've been written, but also the potential to be great villains. But this one actually has been written fairly well in recent times anyway, especially by Greg Rucka. The next one is Dr. Psycho. Now, he's a psychiatrist who gains telepathic powers and powers of hypnotic suggestions. I think he's a really fantastic foil for Wonder Woman and presents like this really deadly threat to her allies. What's interesting about this one is obviously Wonder Woman has a power to see through illusions, but that isn't something that her friends or allies have as well. So often he can use them and manipulate them to come against her or do harm to themselves in a really cool way. And because he's, this is something Greg Rucka explored, because he's a psychologist or a psychotherapist, he often uses really sick, psychological suggestions to do his evil deeds. So he convinces people to do things to themselves or harm themselves, and is always like one step ahead of Wonder Woman, and revels in causing her misery. And all of this because secretly underlying, he kind of is in love with her, which is a theme that is going to come up again and again in Wonder Woman's villains. Unfortunately, I'm very sorry, I've got a problem with my video at the moment, so I'm going to have to do another part to this. It's really like my video keeps turning off. But so I've gone through two villains that I think are really exceptional. I will get to the next villain on the list in my next video. So the Rogues Gallery is going to be in two parts. I've women in years and thousands of years ago, well, even hundreds of years ago, haven't been treated the best. So she does respond to some of that, and the Amazons respond to some of that, and that's why they're isolationist at first before Wonder Woman tries to bring these two worlds together. Now, the third element of what makes her a feminist icon, which isn't explored enough, which I think again isn't anything to fear, is that she comes to our world and So this is part 2 of a defense of Wonder Woman's Rogues Gallery. I've mentioned Alkyone, and I've also mentioned Dr. Psycho so far. And this is something that I will come to at the culmination of this series, or of this defense of Wonder Woman's Rogues Gallery. If you may notice, and I just want to highlight this before, that Alkyone is obsessed with Hippolyta and thinks she's the rightful heir of the Amazons and is in love with her. And Dr. Psycho, part of his motivation for creating chaos and destruction around Wonder Woman is to get her attention because he is in love with her. So this theme of distorted love is going to come up again and again in Wonder Woman's Rogues Gallery. So on to the next on my list of rogues. Again, I'm talking about not only how they have been written in past, but their potential to be really, really great villains, iconic as, say, the Joker. So the next villain is Ares. Now, Ares is one of the most unfortunately underused villains of Wonder Woman. He, is, for me, I mean, just logically speaking, the natural arch nemesis of Wonder Woman. I mean, you think about it, she is an emissary of peace from a utopian island, and she's an emissary of peace to the world, and he is the freaking god of war. Now, he has the potential to be a really sick arch nemesis and has such cool powers. So he represents to Wonder Woman a trifecta of threats, which is psychological, intellectual, and also physical. I mean, really, when you think about this man's power stats and his power levels, he could easily take on the Justice League, and you would really be able to buy it, that he could take on the Justice League. The main thing behind his motivation is he forces Wonder Woman to see the paradox of her mission for peace when she herself is a warrior. He is both a physical and psychological threat, as I've mentioned. He's a force of nature who delights in death, finds salvation in destruction, and lives only to create anarchy. He is not one of these villains, with the typical motivation of wanting to take over the world. His mantra, as eloquently put in the animated feature, is he wants to plunge the world into chaos until he can literally walk on the backs of 6 billion corpses. As far as he's concerned, man's only real position in the world is to suffer, and he wants to ignite and instigate as much turmoil and war and discord as he possibly can. I think he could make a really distressing figure if used properly by DC. I mean, I would think of a great graphic novel where with Ares as the main villain, but with a much more edgier modern take on him than the original brilliant work on him by Perez and Marston Moulton in the 40s and 80s respectively. What I really see him as is a kind of like Hannibal Lecter with superpowers. He's very often depicted as very slick, and he's often depicted as very suave, but with this beastly underside. So again, a very, very good villain. Let's go on to the next one, which is Cheetah. Now, Cheetah was mentioned in Milena's video as not a very, very good villain. I disagree. I don't think she should be Wonder Woman's arch villain, but I do think she is an outstanding villain who hasn't been given her due. Known as Wonder Woman's arch enemy, as I stated before, I'm not sure she deserves that mantle, and I'm not yet convinced. But what Greg Rucka recently did with the character has really developed her as a force to be reckoned with. Barbara Minerva is an archaeologist in search for immortality and is granted her wish, but is cursed by the spirit who gave it to her to hunger for flesh for the rest of her life. So in essence, she is the diametric opposite of Wonder Woman, this immortal kind of goddess figure in Wonder Woman with great power that she has complete control over and emancipates her as a woman. Whereas the Cheetah, on the other hand, has the very, very opposite thing happen to her, which is her search for immortality and power is the very, very thing that enslaves her. And due to this, she's incredibly jealous and angered at Wonder Woman. So another great villain. We then have Genocide. Now, Genocide is another creation by Gail Simone, but I don't think Gail Simone did the best thing she could possibly do with her. However, again, Wonder Woman, emissary of peace. Genocide, probably the worst and most nefarious expression of destruction in the modern world. Genocide. Genocide hates everyone, wants to kill everyone, is a machine, a death machine, and has the power to do it. Also, she has powers apart from super strength, durability, speed, etc., but to also just cause or emanate this this spirit of hatred and intolerance to anyone she's around. So literally everywhere she goes, she causes chaos. Now, I'm not going to go into too much of what I would do with that character, because actually I'm writing a Wonder Woman screenplay and I don't want people stealing my ideas. But it's probably never going to be seen, but just in case. Hey, the next villain on my list, and I can only do this one as the last one, I'm going to have to do another video to finish it, is Dr. Poison. Now, the main appeal for Dr. Poison to me, if you've ever seen her, please have a look at her on the web if you have time, is just the image of this woman. She looks great, and Poison is such a twisted way of basically kind of like the Joker's Joker serum. It's just a really, really twisted way to harm people. She originally was written as a villain for the Nazis, and she was working on like kind of poisons and weapons of mass destruction, poisonous gases that can be released on civilian populations. So that's very, very interesting, and you could do a lot with that. But again, very, very underwritten, very, very underused. So next video will be the next list. So this is part 3 of me looking at Wonder Woman's Rogues Gallery. Now, I just was looking at Dr. Poison, and I just wanted to finish off just saying that, as I said, very, very underwritten, not very used in recent times, but she has a great imagery about her if you can look up any images of her. And for me, there's so much potential in just from the look of what she could be. She almost looks like this kind of transsexual, insane serial killer to me, and I think, coupled with the fact that she uses deadly toxins as her weapon, and she's absorbed these deadly poisons so that she can actually emit them from her breath and from the pores of her skin, I think there's a lot that can be done with the iconography of that character. Next on the list is Circe. I haven't much to say about her, but a great villain. She's a sorceress who sees mortals as weak and there to be subjugated. She has no idea whatsoever as to why Wonder Woman would choose to defend such weak creatures as men, especially with the lack of goodwill that men in history have shown women. So she's a fantastic villain. Simple, basic. I wouldn't make her one of the main villains, but again, she's a very powerful sorceress, and this theme of the warrior versus the mystic is something that comes up a lot amongst Wonder Woman's rogues. The next one on my list, now these are some of my favorites. Now they're called the Crow Children. Again, very, very recent creations by Gail Simone, but I think if DC seriously want to improve and make iconic villains for Wonder Woman, they both have to add new villains, but also go back to old material and look at it and see, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater as such. Try and update these guys. They might not have been perfect at the time, but given some more exploration, they could be really interesting. So these are the Crow Children. They consist of the children of Ares, which is Brother Spider, Brother Goat, Brother Scorpion, Brother Rat, and Brother Adder. They are the 5 half-siblings of Ares. They walk around they're depicted as about 8 years old, and they walk around in prep school clothes using mannered and articulate speech to sarcastically denounce violence and civil unrest, while in fact being the instigators of it. They use subtle suggestions and manipulations to cause it, hiding behind their innocent and polite demeanors. Their mannered speech can be and subtle suggestions can be so convincing that sometimes they cause themselves or the victims of this form of speech to have mild hallucinations, to bring reality in line with what they are saying. So again, they're really, I mean, again, I don't know if I'm doing them justice. It's worth actually reading War Killer just to see how good they are. They're very humorous. They're very poignant to now. They come across as these kind of like little boys, but who represent these old conservative values and are mocking them, while in fact being the instigators of all the violence that they disavow. So on to the next one, which is Veronica Cale. Now, Veronica Cale recently was depicted in a Wonder Woman TV show, and man, was it bad. I am very, very glad that the general audience were not introduced to this version of Veronica Cale. It was actually probably the worst thing about the show. She was actually played by Elizabeth Hurley, who shouldn't have any place in the acting world. So I must admit, what is Veronica Cale? She's a billionaire owner of a multinational corporation, and she hates Wonder Woman. So yeah, you could see her as a bit of a Lex Luthor ripoff. However, where she comes in best is not to put her as the highlight of the whole thing, but to her to be behind and using all these kind of mystical forces that come her way because she hates Wonder Woman, to use them as an aids in her diabolical plan. Now, although she can remind you in the basic sense of Lex Luthor. She was given a great backstory by Greg Rucka that kind of explores her motivations, which are quite different from Lex Luthor. Again, there's an element of jealousy there of Wonder Woman, but it's more of a kind of sexual jealousy, and her thinking that, as a woman she's had to try hard, whereas Wonder Woman hasn't had to do anything at all to be seen as attractive and to be seen as equal to men. She's also from the South, so she has this kind of femme fatale Southern belle kind of swag, which I think is and a sexual charisma, which I think is very, very different from Lex Luthor. And last but not least, we all know her. She is Medusa and the Gorgons. She's the chick that turns people to stone. But Medusa in Wonder Woman is always joined by her equally twisted sisters, Uriel and Sereno. They seek vengeance on Athena, and therefore her greatest champion, Wonder Woman, for banishing them to Tartarus, and Medusa from separating her from her loved one, Poseidon. Wonder Woman and Medusa have some really class A smackdowns. This is really like a physical threat for Wonder Woman. Obviously, she can't look at her directly in the eyes, otherwise she's going to be turned to stone. So a lot of things have been done where she's been blindfolded to fight her. She even once, Wonder Woman even once poured acid in her eyes to prevent Medusa from transforming her to stone, blinding herself for a number of the series, but still, because of her warrior skills, able to match Medusa. So those are all great villains, and there are more. There are more, by the way, of Wonder Woman villains that are great. Thematically, these guys connect. Often there is an element where what connects Wonder Woman's villains is a distorted form of love. Wonder Woman obviously has a pure and undistorted form of love, which is central to her character and why she is a hero. And for her villains to have this distorted form of love for her, or jealousy, or whatever it may be, is a good way of connecting hero and villain thematically. So again, there is no problem with Wonder Woman's rogues gallery. They just need updating. They just need to be more in the public eye, so as to look as genuine threats to not just Wonder Woman, but probably other superheroes as well.